Hey, welcome to Be Explainer. So today we're diving into a technology that's already changing, well, everything. From how you unlock your phone to how police track down suspects. It's incredibly powerful, it's deeply controversial, and honestly, it's becoming almost impossible to avoid. We're talking about facial recognition.
Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds like something out of a movie, right? But for some people, this isn't science fiction, it's a real-life nightmare. And this one question, it gets right to the heart of this entire debate and shows you just how high the stakes really are.
Okay, so let's break this whole thing down. Before we can even get into the big controversies, you gotta understand what this tech is, and maybe more importantly, where it's already showing up in your life.
So at its core, facial recognition is really just a type of biometric software. You know how your fingerprint is totally unique to you? Well, the idea here is that your face is too. It's got all these unique patterns and features. This software is built to digitally map those features and use that map to figure out who you are. So how does this whole thing actually work? Well, it's not magic, but it is a pretty neat three-step dance. First, the software has to find a face in a picture or a video. That's step one. Then, the really cool part, it starts extracting key features. You know, the distance between your eyes, the curve of your jaw. It turns all that into a totally unique mathematical code. Think of it like a face print. And finally, it takes that face print and runs it against a huge database of other faces, searching for a match. And right away, you can see why law enforcement agencies would be all over this, right? I mean, suddenly they can scan hours and hours of security footage for a suspect's face, or instantly check identities at the border, or even monitor massive crowds for people they're looking for. This promise of making us safer is exactly why it's spreading so fast.
Okay, but, and this is a huge but, here's where the story takes a turn. Because as powerful as this tech is, it is far from perfect. And when it gets something wrong, it's not just a little computer glitch. It can have a devastating, real-world human cost. And this is the absolute core of the problem. The software doesn't work equally well for everybody. See, these algorithms, they learn by studying enormous databases of faces. But if those databases are biased, say they're mostly full of white male faces, then the system itself becomes biased. The result? The tech is way less accurate when it's trying to identify people of color and women.
And when you look at the numbers, it is just stark. It's not even close. Study after study shows way higher error rates for people of color. In some studies, the error rate for identifying Black women has been found to be nearly 35%. 35. While for white men, it's hovering under 1%. This isn't just a little bug. It's a massive systemic bias baked right into the system.
And to really get what an error like that means in the real world, you have to hear the story of Robert Williams. He's not a statistic. He's a dad from Detroit whose entire life got turned upside down because of one faulty match. I want you to just picture this for a second. You're at home with your family, and suddenly the police are on your lawn arresting you in front of your kids for a crime you've never even heard of. Mr. Williams had an alibi, he knew he was innocent, but none of that mattered. The computer said it was his face, and that was enough for them to take him away. 30 hours. Let that sink in. 30 hours locked away, treated like a criminal, all because a computer program messed up. That right there is the human cost of just one single algorithmic error. And look, the tragic thing is, Robert Williams' story isn't some one-off fluke. It's a perfect, heartbreaking example of the wider fallout from these errors, the emotional trauma, the damage to someone's reputation, and the way it just shatters trust between communities and the police. And that damage is so much worse when the errors keep happening to the same, already marginalized groups. But you know, the scary part isn't just when the tech gets it wrong. Even when it works perfectly, it forces us to ask a really tough question. What kind of freedoms are we actually willing to give up for the promise of more security?
So when you talk to civil liberties experts, they're raising a few huge red flags. The big one? The idea of mass surveillance happening all around us without us ever saying yes. Then there's this chilling effect on free speech. And finally, there's the massive potential for this powerful tech to be abused by people in power.
So what exactly is a chilling effect? Think about it. If you knew you were being watched, constantly identified. Would you still go to that protest? Would you be as honest in that online forum? That hesitation, that little voice in your head telling you to just stay home and stay quiet, that is the chilling effect in action. And this really gets us to the heart of the whole debate, the central dilemma. On one side, you've got people saying, hey, this is a powerful tool for public safety. It helps us catch bad guys. And on the other, you've got critics warning, wait a minute, this is a highway to unchecked surveillance and the erosion of our basic rights. And there is no easy answer here. So, with the stakes this high, you're probably asking, who's in charge here? Who's making the rules for this stuff? Let's take a look at the paths to regulation. Well, the honest answer is it's kind of a mess. Right now, there aren't any big overarching federal laws for how police can use this stuff. It's created this messy patchwork of different rules from one city to the next, leaving these huge gaps where there's just no accountability. And because of that chaos, you have this growing chorus of voices. We're talking civil rights groups, advocates, even some politicians who are calling for a moratorium, basically a timeout, a complete pause on police using it to give everyone time to really study the problems and figure out how to build some real effective guardrails. So, okay, what does a responsible path forward even look like? Well, experts pretty much agree it has to be a three-pronged attack. First, you have to fix the bias problem by demanding better, more diverse training data. Second, you need transparency. We should know how it's being used, and there should be independent checks. And third, and this might be the most important, you have to bring the affected communities to the table and give them a real say. When you boil it all down, it really comes back to this one core idea, that any use of this technology has to be carefully scrutinized and regulated. Without that, our basic rights are just too vulnerable. Look, the genie is out of the bottle. This technology is here, and it's only getting smarter and more widespread. So the real question for us, for society, isn't if we're going to live with it anymore. It's how. How are we going to control it? Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.